like you mentioned earlier, hearing the same message or even a little different message from a different coach that, you've never been around before. If you're a head coach and you're telling a kid that, his shot form's off and you tell him until you're blue in the face, he doesn't get it. And then if he goes to a new coach, someone that he doesn't know or someone that he may know, and they hear it again from them, it kind of hopefully will hammer home that message and give a chance for that. And then another thing that we always talk about at our camps that we think is very valuable for players, is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're going to a camp setting. In a camp setting, it's more of a setting that, the kid gets out of it what they put in. The coach has a vested interest to push you and drive, and get the most out of you. But if the kid's not driven to go on it himself, or if he's uncomfortable and he doesn't feel, comfortable with that situation, he can't get through it. It's a good learning tool for a lot of kids too. And without, camps that we run that are overnight camps, you're on a college campus, you want to play college basketball. This is a perfect example. This is as close to that scenario as you're going to have. You're staying on a college campus, you're eating here, you're managing your time, you're behaving around, your peers. You have to, hold yourself in a mannerism that, is going to fall in the lines of the rules for our camp, for the campus and everything. And so the camp situation is a whole new situation that it's not really, there's not a lot of other things like it that are out there.
Right. And that's huge. And I think that the change of environment, like you mentioned, is key, especially, I always told players, I think, if nothing else, it also, it gives you a little bit of a gauge on where you actually stand. A lot of players, talk about wanting to play, at whatever level of college basketball, the highest level, the best conferences of Division I to, simply team. And I think sometimes, getting lost in the shuffle there is where they actually stand. I know especially, people from smaller towns, people from smaller states, I think it's a struggle sometimes to figure out where you actually fall, just because you're the best player on your team or maybe even one of the better players or best player in the conference doesn't necessarily mean when you get out there, in that, out of that small pond and get into that ocean doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stack up the same way. So, can you talk a little bit about kind of how, a coach may want to use kind of that approach? Maybe it's, again, you guys offer showcases, maybe it's showcases, but can you talk about, the player potentially who plays at the high school level and wants to play at the college level? What should they be looking at to kind of figure out where they stack up or how they should kind of approach that or navigate that process?
Yeah, for sure. And, I kind of touched home with, your big fish in a small pond. When I was playing high school basketball, I played in upstate New York in the middle of nowhere, and very similar situation. I was one of the better players in the county. And if I ever would have stepped outside the county and realized, that there's more basketball being played than where I live, I would have realized quickly that there's a lot of better players out there than me. So, with someone who's trying to play college basketball, someone who's serious about it, they have to get outside of their area. They have to go, match themselves up against other players who are better than them to see where they stand. Everything's a measuring tool. If you're in a game, individual, whatever it is, it's always going to be a measuring tool. And so if you're serious about playing college basketball, you have to get measured in front of college coaches. So going to a camp, going to a certified event that college coaches are allowed to be at, it's really one of the only few ways to actually get recruited. I could tell a coach till I'm blue in the face about a kid, I think he's really good. But if the coach never actually goes and sees the kid's never in front of the coach, they're never going to see it for themselves. They're not going to, have their own belief in it. So if a kid's trying to play college basketball and looking for exposure, the summer period's so large for that because the July live period is the 3 weeks of it when college coaches can be out all over the country, and they are. That's the time of the year when you need to be, showcased. You can't be home. You have to be, there's 5 days in live period. You have to be seen all 5 days of that live period. So getting seen by the college coaches is the biggest part.
Yeah. Can you talk on that note a little bit about the difference maybe between AAU and, going to a showcase, for instance, because, over the years it's kind of evolved as far as, do you need to play AAU? Do you have to play AAU? Does it matter if you're on a high profile team? Like you mentioned, if I go to a hoop group showcase, does it matter that I'm playing in upstate New York as long as coaches see me? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the way AAU is broken out, the shoe contract, the shoe companies, teams, and, circuits they run are your largest ones. And, with AAU basketball, we tell kids it's a great opportunity. It's great to play. You almost have to play it if you're serious about getting, college recruitment and college exposure. AAU basketball is big for that. But if you're not starting on your AAU basketball team, if you're not one of the main guys on your AAU basketball team, it's absolutely crazy for you to come off the bench on one of those teams, we say. It makes no sense. There's a million AAU teams. Go be the man on a team. Show colleges what you can do. And like I said, if it's a certified event, it doesn't matter if it's upstate New York or if it's New York City. Coaches are going to go watch players. There's only so many tournaments they can go to. They're not going to go, a staff has 4 coaches. Not all 4 coaches are going to go to the same event. So they're going to spread out. And so with AAU, it's a team event. So, like I said, if you're not one of the better guys on it, it doesn't make much sense to be on that team. Right. If you go sit the bench for the best team in the country, no one ever watches you play because you don't play, you're not really helping yourself. So whereas a showcase or an individual event, that's 100% on your shoulders. That's you 24 hours a day. You're the only person who really controls that. There's no coach that's holding you back, that's not playing you. There's no one who's not passing you the ball. That's on you. So if you're, looking for extra exposure, more exposure, you want to increase your recruitment, spark your recruitment, whatever it may be, the individual, the showcases, the camps type stuff is something that just skyrockets it. Very few times have we seen guys who, recruitment skyrockets through AAU tournaments. Usually it sparks somewhere, and it'll stay on that level or it'll go down a little bit. But a lot of times when we see recruitment that kind of gets blown up, that starts, that no one really knows about them, then they go get seen, a ton of people like them. A lot of times it's from an individual event or an individual showcase where they showcase all their skills that they have.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And from I always joke that, it doesn't matter if, a coach is seeing you play if you're not good enough. The reality is getting in front of coaches, if you're simply not good enough, does no good either. So can we backtrack for a second and talk a little bit about, some of the camps, maybe as a more like direct focus in terms of skill development? Because again, if you can convince the coach to send, the players off, and I say players plural because I think even a kid who may not want to play in college should be trying to improve in the off season. And again, it still benefits the program as a whole. So can you talk a little bit kind of approaching off season development and maybe some of the things you guys try to do at Hoop Group, that is specific, or things you've done in the past that you encourage for, again, players, 1 through 12 on, let's say, like a high school team?
Yeah, I mean, we do, at our clinics and everything, you get drills that you can do as an individual. You get drills that, you can do in your driveway at home, in a half-court gym. We try to do the best we can as giving our players, we call them the tools in the package that they need outside of the camp to continue to get better. They're going to get a ton of instruction, the instruction that we provide in our camps, for example. We hire college coaches to do the instruction. Yeah. So you're getting instruction from a college coach, and then, like I said, we give you the platform to display your talent at camp. And then we give you the tools to go home with to, improve and work on your own game. You get, when we do everything, we give evaluations, we get feedback on the spot. That's from what we see. So hopefully, like I said, if kids coachable, that sinks in. They take that and then they work on the tools that we give them. And, hopefully that's how they improve their game on their own.
Right. Can you talk about age range with regards to that? Because I think sometimes, players end up thinking or perhaps realizing too late that, they need, man, I'm a junior in high school, a senior in high school. I should start going now versus trying to get in, perhaps at, age 12, age 13. Again, even if you aren't sure if you want to play in college, but just in terms of developmental, I mean, you guys offer a variety of camps. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the younger kid offerings and then talk about working it back up through